welcome to a very special edition of The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. It is my pleasure to welcome to the show a very good friend of mine, someone who I haven't seen in almost a decade. He's a keyboard player, multi-instrumentalist, and music producer from Nashville, Tennessee. He's now living in San Diego, California. He's also been playing in LA, Los Angeles as a professional musician. Worked with several different people. He's been playing on national television. He's touring with Kelsea Ballerini, and I'm telling you, man, this guy, ooh, watch out for him. He's gonna be up there straight to the top. He's been playing the CMA Awards, the Jimmy Kimmel Live, the Kelly Clarkson Show, among many other venues. It is my honor to welcome to the show Aspene Taylor. Aspen, welcome to the Piano Men.
What's up, Stanley? Thank you for having me, bro. I'm so happy to be here, bro, and it's so good to see you. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. And let's talk about your upbringing. You grew up in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your childhood.
Childhood was really good. I grew up on the west side of Nashville. Had my parents. My dad was an alumni of TSU. And he's from a small town in West Tennessee. Well, both of my parents, West Tennessee, called Brownsville. And my dad moved up from Brownsville. My mom, she's born and raised Chicago. And so once they left from high school, went to Chicago and everything. And once my dad graduated, he wanted, obviously, to pursue my mother. So he did. And then they came back to Nashville and realigned. And then, you know, they got married and everything, and my brother was born first, and then here I am. And I also have a little sister as well, but pretty much just my dad, he's a born and just natural talented singer. So he just had music around us all the time. When I was 1 or 2, and my brother was like 4 or 5, he had a room in the house that was just filled with small instruments. So it was like a little piano, a little set of drums. It was this electric saxophone that, bro, I used to take everywhere with me, everywhere, and just like act like I was playing saxophone, which that's actually funny for later on. But yeah, used to carry that saxophone everywhere with me. But pretty much he just allowed us to have that access to the music and the instruments, and I always gravitated towards the piano. Always. Even though I loved like banging on the drums and stuff, I was always most intrigued by the piano.
Yeah, I read in your bio you started taking up music at the age of 3.
Exactly. So that's when my dad really saw that the piano was that instrument that I continued to actually like pay attention to and not just bang on it. You know, I was actually playing notes and doing different like small rhythms and stuff. So that's when he started to just really just like ingrain me with like the music and the knowledge. Like that's when I really just started to hear all of these different types. Like my dad, his favorite artist is Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah.
So once he saw that I really loved the piano, it was just Stevie all the time, you know, because he loves Stevie, sings Stevie all the time. So it was just Stevie religiously.
Oh man, you can't go wrong with Stevie Wonder.
Exactly, you know, he's a goat. He's a great icon,
absolutely.
legend, you know, all of those things. But pretty much continued to do that, and I started taking piano lessons, and I would also be at church. So the pianist at my church, he would used to let me sit on the piano stool with him, and I would just watch him every Sunday. Every Sunday I would just watch him until I got old enough to be able to like play like the melody on the higher octave of the piano. He would let me like play a couple chords here. And then he passed, and the next minister of music that came to the church that I grew up at, he actually became my piano teacher for most of my life. So shout out to Mr. Ricky Jarrett, because he's the one that really like gave me that initial vision of like knowing that this was for me and meant for me, even though I didn't, and I hated it for a long time.
It's like you never know what your passion is until a light bulb flickers off.
Exactly. And I didn't know for a long time, Stanley. Even when we were in high school, until Richard Griffin. Until I got with Mr. Richard Griffin.
Yes.
It took me a long time to realize that piano was that tool that I'll be able to have and that was meant for me for the rest of my life.
So I love how you mentioned, like, your dad grew up in West Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Your mom was raised in Chicago. It's kind of like the West Tennessee and that Chicago, that influence. It's all kind of merged into one, and so
Exactly.
you got that, that R&B kind of soul influence. That's so awesome. So
Yes, sir.
your dad was a singer too, right?
Yeah, he still sings now. And it was crazy because I just recently had a really good conversation with my dad where he kind of talked about, because I had asked him why did he not choose to like do singing as a profession. And shout out to him. He was really just being so honest and saying that he knew he was meant to be like our dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he was meant to be able to give the things that we needed for me to even be in the place that I'm in now. And that meant so much to me as a dad telling his son that, because now I'm about to be a dad,
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing those things in life about like sacrifices that you have to make, and then you realize that they're actually beneficial things. They weren't as sacrificial as you thought.
That's right.
So that was a big thing to me. And he always had influence on me and still does within music, because he never really gave up on his singing. He just knew what his purpose in life was. So
Definitely.
that's a big thing for me, to allow me to know that music isn't the end all be all. It's something that stays with you for life, but it's different realms of it where I can use it in different forms in my life, where I don't have to be a touring musician for the rest of my life,
Right. It's there when you know you need it.
Exactly, and it evolves with me as well, how I want it to evolve with me as a professional, as a creative, as a human, all of those things.
So growing up, who were some of your favorite artists to listen to and some of the influences that you liked?
It's so crazy because when I was younger, like I said, I was always kind of not wanting to play the piano as much. So I listened to a lot of pop music. I was always listening to 107.5. That was back in the day when we had to use the tapes, and I used to record the radio stations at night because that's when they used to play the most music with less ads. So I would always just listen to the music the next day because I like to learn the words and stuff. But as a kid, really it was a lot of Ray Charles, a lot of Stevie Wonder, and then my parents would play a lot of gospel music. So I was listening to a lot of gospel music. But my piano teacher, he was great because he allowed me to have balance. He was the minister of music at my church, but he also was my actual piano teacher. So he was the person that like really introduced me into classical music.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to listen and still do like a lot of classical music, a lot of Debussy. That's my favorite, one of my favorite composers of my time. But yeah, my dad used to listen to a lot of Brian Culbertson. He still does. So like the smooth jazz stuff was a segue for me as well, because that was just what I grew up listening to. My dad loved smooth jazz. So by the time that I got to that point of like where I really wanted to play piano, Robert Glasper was a big influence for me.
I kind of think like the older you get, the more you kind of appreciate the classical artists.
Oh yeah, man. And it's like growing up, I loved listening to classical music. I just didn't want to practice it. That's all. That's why I feel like I didn't like it. Oh yeah. But I've always loved classical music though. Classical music is so soothing. I love anything that's peaceful and so beautiful, but yet the emotion because music is is a universal language. You don't have to speak it, but you can hear every emotion. You can hear the conversations in that music, and in a lot of forms of music, but within classical music, like you really, really, really can dig deep into those emotions because there's so much emotion, so many ups and downs, so much going on in each piece.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there a record or CD that made you go, wow, like really kind of captured your mind, like when you first started really getting into music?
Yeah, honestly, like, and when I first, it's interesting because when I first started to like open up my palette of music is when I met some of my best friends, which I call them my brothers and sisters now, which you will play some music from there, but that's the band that I started in Nashville called Cat Milk Blue. So my brothers and sisters, Isaiah, Chloe Cat, Nate, Brandon, they are the ones that put me on to like Sly Stone, like me hearing Sly Stone and Wes Montgomery, like these type of people. It changed my life, bro. Like what to listen to, and just listening to a lot of funk and all of that, man. It definitely changed my whole like palette and perspective on music, because I wasn't just listening to piano players, but I was listening to people that used great piano players, like a lot of the Motown music with the Funk Brothers that they all used to like play, for all of the Motown artists and stuff like that. That's when I really didn't get tapped into a lot of that stuff until like late high school. So I was a little behind, for some people, but yeah, just a lot of that. And I love Coldplay too, man. Chris
Definitely.
Martin is absolutely amazing.
One of the great rock artists, I would say, in the last 20 years.
Oh yeah. So very thankful for that. But two big influences that I feel have been very inspirational: Bill Evans and Thelonious Monk, off of like artistic sides and just like creative sides of not really caring about anybody and what anybody else thinks. They embrace their sound and they embrace themselves, and they put their all into their music, and they spoke it how they want to speak it, no matter what. And that's how I feel and go about my life, and how I play.
Yeah, like you said, like they put their heart into it.
Exactly.
And it makes you feel a certain way.
Exactly.
You brought up a few seconds ago a band called Cat Milk Blue, and
Yes,
we're going to
sir.
play one of their songs that you played on. It's called Make Mama Proud. What
Yes,
can you
sir.
tell me about this recording?
So Make Mama Proud so our lead singer Chloe Cat, she is one of the best writers of our time. Everybody will soon know Chloe Cat to the highest level, but she has a poem book that she always writes in. A lot of our songs and her written songs start from poems, and I'm pretty sure that this poem was to and for her mom as well. With what she's talking about with making her mama proud, making her mama proud and making her as a mom proud.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're going to play Cat Milk Blue right here on The Piano Men. All right. We're back here on The Piano Men. I am chatting with keyboardist Aspene Taylor about his illustrious career. And Aspen, we both met each other at the Nashville School of the Arts, high school.
Yes,
and
sir.
I majored in mass media. You majored in music. And you talked a little bit a while ago about one of your mentors being Mr. Richard Griffin.
Yes, sir.
The music teacher.
One and only.
Yep, the legend himself.
Yes, sir.
Any fond memories from our time at NSA?
Oh, plenty, man. Like, being under Mr. Griffin was probably the best training that I could have had to allow me to be a great professional. Like, the things that Mr. Griffin taught us weren't only just being a great professional in the music industry. It was just being an overall great professional. Like, the way that he trained us to be on time is something that will always allow me and anybody else that worked under Mr. Griffin to have some type of work. Just that point of professionalism where time is so important, that will allow a lot of things to happen for you, because that comes with preparation. For you to be on time, you have to prepare.
Oh, no doubt.
You have to be aware of what you need to have to be able to be on time. So with that alone, that has taken me so far. And also just how he goes about his knowledge on, like, how when we usually act like we know something, or if we mess up, it's like, oh, I do know what that is. And he's like, if you continue to mess up, you don't know it. You know it when you don't have to think about it. When it becomes that second nature thing, that's when you know it.
Sure.
And so that means you have to just drive and push to make sure that, essentially, it just means you can't be sloppy.
Right.
He was just being a teacher, but it said we just could be sloppy, pretty much. But how he made sure that we traveled and played out and not just played in school. We played all over the city, played for different type of events, had to learn different type of music with all the ensemble classes that he provided for us, and the type of music that we had to learn, like doing Tower of Power, but also doing all of the Motown stuff, but then allowing us to put together our own shows with the music that we like and blend it in with the music that the origin of that music, like where it comes from.
Right.
That alone just amplified my like natural abilities to perform.
I remember like going down the hallways a few times, and I believe it was, I forgot what song it was, but I think it was like a Carrie Underwood song. I heard you guys playing down the hallway.
Yes,
that
sir.
That was some good stuff right there.
Yeah, man, and shout out to Mr. Griffin, because he really allowed me to thrive at NSA, because my story with NSA is a little tricky. I originally auditioned for drums as my primary, because that was a time, 7th and 8th grade, when I went to Martin Luther King, I was kind of like not wanting to play the piano, so I didn't play the piano anymore for those few years, and I was just playing drums. And so when I got ready to audition for our NSA, I wanted to play drums, so I auditioned for Mr. Griffin on drums and did piano as secondary. But he asked me what my primary instrument was, and I told him it was piano. And I'm pretty sure because of that, he didn't accept me on drums, even though I know I did really good on my audition. And thank you to Mr. Bidner for actually allowing me to come into the piano program, which is how I actually got into NSA and started in the piano program. And then I did my freshman year in the piano program, and sophomore year I was able to audition for the ensemble classes, and then that allowed me to be a band student. So I was in the jazz band and the pop ensemble. And I did like orchestra stuff as well with Miss Painter.
Another great teacher.
Exactly. NSA was filled with them. I could just name so many, from our time.
So many. So why'd you give up piano and want to take drums for a while?
For me, I mean, I was just a child where like I'm the middle child, so I just always wanted to do what I said I wanted to do. And
go with your gut.
Exactly. But for a while, I felt like I was a little forced on the piano, like having to play the classical music and also having to play the church music when I really didn't want to play much church music, Because like I said, I used to listen to like a lot of pop stuff, a lot of different things, and I always, my dad would always make me practice at night, and I would always just play what I wanted to play and play whatever came from my mind. And then when he would come upstairs, I would try to act like I was practicing my actual music. But yeah, so also going to MLK, bro, you don't have much time. I'm not going to even lie to you. When you go to MLK, man, the amount of work that I had leaving from IT Crestwell to go to Martin Luther King, it was a game changer. So, and also that's when Drumline came out, so I was really deep into the drums.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
And you had a couple siblings also go to NSA as well, right?
I did. My older brother, Osty, he graduated in 2010, so it was great because I got to spend high school with both of my siblings. I was a freshman when my brother was a senior, and when my little sister came in, I was a sophomore and she was a freshman, and we went to high school together.
Right. How cool is that?
Yeah, it was great to have both siblings, and for a while people just thought that I was my brother's like little best friend, little homie. And then they found out I was his brother, and it was kind of crazy then.
Were they both music majors?
Nah, not at all. Well, my sister, yes. My brother, he was a dancer.
Okay.
So he was in the dance world,
Oh, yeah.
And he also did like musical theater with Miss Grantham and stuff like that.
Another great teacher.
Yes, sir. But my sister, she actually was a violin major.
Okay.
So she had Miss Painter as well for her high school career. And I think me and her might have had orchestra together as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, good times. I was playing like drums and timpani and all of that stuff there.
Just all around the different ensembles. And
exactly. That's
working it all up together,
Exactly, and that's what NSA really allowed me to be able to know that I can work in different genres and stuff. That's why living in LA has been such a thrill, because what I learned in NSA, being in pop ensemble with Mr. Griffin, but also being in jazz band and then being in symphonic orchestra, you know, and then doing musical theater with Miss Grantham, you know, and then doing like music recording stuff with Satterwhite, you know. Like it was just a whole, it's crazy because what I'm doing now for my professional life is what I was just like preparing for in high school. So shout out to NSA for real.
Definitely. Just a great place.
Yes,
and
sir.
So we both graduated in 2013, and you later went on to Columbia College in Chicago after graduation. What can you tell me about your time there?
Yeah, my time wasn't that long there, which, I mean, usually with music school, that's kind of how it goes. Is either you go in and get right on out or, you know, you go all the way. But right after high school, which it was very interesting because we did get to graduate at the Grand Ole Opry, which was amazing, which is also crazy because that was 10 years ago or almost 10 years ago at this point, and I'm about to go play the Opry tomorrow as an actual professional musician, which is amazing. But anyway, after I graduated high school, I didn't want to go right to college, so I took a little break and I just kind of lived all around the states for a couple months here and there. But once I did get to Chicago and get to Columbia, that experience was absolutely life-changing. I found who I was and who I was meant to be in that city based off of all of the people that I was influenced around. Like, the people that I now call my brothers and best friends that I went to college with at that time, they allowed me to know that I was capable of being able to be who I am now. They put so much influence into me and gave me so much influence. It was so crazy how we shared and we grew together as young adults, you know, in college. Like, I can honestly say that was the best part of Columbia, was the people that I got to meet in that 1 year that I was there. And I also had some great professors, too. No lie. I had some really, really great professors. Like Sebastian, he was the head of the piano department, but he was a classical pianist. And then I had my jazz teachers, which I had a couple of those, which they were amazing because at Columbia in the piano department, if me studying jazz and being a jazz major, I had to have a classical piece with every jazz piece that I had. So it was being able, just giving me balance and learning balance, you know, to make sure that I work my brain in both ways and not get stagnant just in one genre.
Correct, yeah.
Always doing other genres, you know.
Being a well-rounded musician, that's always important.
Exactly, because the more well-rounded you are, the more jobs that you can have within music, so you don't get stuck or stagnant in that one realm, you know.
You know, you want to survive.
Exactly. And as a professional, like, musician that does touring and all of that stuff, when you become your own artist, that's different. That's a
whole different other animal.
Oh yeah, definitely. But as a professional musician, you know, and that's what I love about being from Nashville, because that is what's ingrained in you from, like, you know, when you start being a young musician and up, because we have all of the studios here and everybody records here, all type of different music and stuff like that.
Yeah, the music scene's definitely grown and changed. Everywhere you look, like, Nashville's got your country, of course. You got your Christian music. You've got your pop music.
Yes, sir.
Indie music has taken off to a whole nother level. So I know you were at Columbia College briefly. Was there any advice that you were given by your professors that you kind of took away from? Yeah,
definitely. It was really great because Columbia actually facilitated professors that really were still out in the world, in the gig world. They were in the gig world of Chicago, but they were still in the gig world. So they were still everyday experienced musicians as well, not just professors that, you know, they are professors. Nothing against them, but it's just different when you have the real life experience happening along with the curriculum.
That's right.
So most of them really were just like, yo, don't get stuck in this college world. Make sure, if you feel like you become a household name in college, make sure you do that out in the city too, because you will really hinder yourself from actually, like, full growth. Once you actually get out of college and go into the real world as a professional, you want to make sure you have established yourself in both realms. So that's something that I can really say that I learned from them. And also, never be afraid to try something new.
Sure.
That was big.
Yeah, that is big.
That was big for me, and that's what helped me allow. That's what allowed me to be able to move from Chicago to LA, which that story is a whole another story as well.
We'll get into that in just a second. But first, we're gonna play a selection here. It's called
Fave.
Fave.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with Quinn and Six Slack.
Yes, sir, Mr. Black.
What can you tell me about this track?
So this track, Quinn, she is who I would call my sister. She's such an amazing soul. We met, I think, around 2018. One of my good friends, Ali, he had called me to play keys for her because she had needed a keys player. And once we met before I even played for her or anything. She just wanted to have like a little, what one would call a consultation because she is boss to employee, but really she's just so cool that it's not that type of vibe. And once we met, we hit it off instantly, like
sure,
family instantly, and she was an up-and-coming artist at that time, and then she took me under and I took her under, and we just started doing all of the journeys together. Like we traveled all around doing one-offs and spot dates just to get her like exactly where it was just me and her. So we grew so much together with learning how to be a professional and the traveling. We definitely grew in all of that. So we got to the point of her doing this project, and she always wants her brothers and her family to be a part of anything that she's doing. So she was like, brothers, let's go in, because we played this music live so much. I want y'all's elements that y'all have put into this music into the record. And so we went into the studio and we did all of the like extra additional parts, and my boy Calvin laid the drums, Isaiah's on the bass. And after we finished doing all of the band things, she was blessed to be able to work with an amazing producer by the name of No ID. Okay. And he did his thing on the chop ups and the sampling of all of the parts and stuff we did, and this is how Fave came about.
All right, we're going to play it right here on The Piano Men. Right. And we're back on the piano talking with keyboardist Aspene Taylor tonight about his career. Aspene, you later moved to Los Angeles.
Yes, sir. 20 years old.
What made you decide to make the move?
So after I had left from Chicago, because I did an audition for this artist by the name of Jeremiah, for a tour that actually ended up not happening. I was working in Nashville. I came back to Nashville so I could work to make some money so I could buy a car and then go to L.A. And when I got with Cat Milk Blue before I went to Chicago, my boy Isaiah, he was really just talking about L.A. and how he knew musicians that went out there and they really just took off. And they were like the guys, and they were just playing with everybody. So that just really amped me up. And I was like, okay, cool. If I feel like I've already gotten to like a certain cap in Nashville and I want to do more for myself and play on more gigs, not just country gigs, I have to go to LA.
Yeah, man.
So I saved up $10,000 and I bought a car, went to the car insurance place the next day and drove from the car insurance place to LA and never looked back. And that was in 2000. Well, I was 20 when I moved there. So yeah, that was 7 years going on 8 years ago.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
Is history,
Look
man.
Look at you now. You opened up for the Jonas Brothers.
Yes, sir. I was playing with this artist named Jordan McGraw, playing keys and music directing for Jordan McGraw, and we toured with the Jonas Brothers for almost 3 years, actually, which is crazy. We went all around the world with them. We've done so much. Jordan, he's a super talented artist. He's actually about to release some new music pretty soon, so make sure y'all go check that out as well. But yeah, it was a fun time with Jordan McGraw on the Jonas Brothers tour, bro. We used to rage and have a great time. Jordan allowed me to really learn things within music directing and the musical sense of like putting shows together and doing it in different ways that I wasn't used to. So it was just allowing me to grow with the technology of like doing playback and the software Ableton that I use to be able to like make the shows and the tracks and stuff like that.
Seems like a very fun job to have, like when you're producing all that stuff.
It definitely is. It can be tedious, and it can also be high levels of stress depending on how you do with stress.
Yeah.
But you know, if you really love it and you really know that it's gonna be beneficial for you to keep on pushing for, which is what I do. I do everything for the next generation to come. I want the next generation to know that there are so many opportunities for them to have, and also start to create more and more opportunities, so they can understand that they don't have to do like one thing here, one thing there.
Right.
They can actually thrive in, you know, being a playback engineer, or things that weren't really taught to me per se when I was coming up as a musician, not just like me having to play the piano, because
Sure.
the piano has been a tool for me, but it's allowed me to like be in a lot of different avenues of being a tour musician or a musical director, or even producing and doing composition, because I've done some composition stuff as well.
So tell me about the composition. How long have you been writing for?
I've been writing for some time, but on a professional sense, for the last 2.5, almost 3 years. As far as like doing actual gigs with doing composition and scoring and stuff, has been a blessing, because it's always something that I've really, really, really been intrigued in. I've always made these crazy string arrangements and always loved strings and learned a lot about what each instrument does and how to use it properly, especially under Miss Painter. She really did a great job with that by having me in her symphonic orchestra class. And I did her music history class as well, so that taught me a lot.
Definitely.
But yeah, that definitely has been a plus for me in the composition world, and it allowed really the pandemic, bro. The pandemic is what.
Yes, that changed so much.
It did.
The entertainment industry.
It did. It allowed me to be able to work from home, and I had more time at home, so I had more time to sit with pieces or create compositions and just sit and just play and be free within myself and use those free creative pieces and turn them into a full composition, you know.
That's so cool, man.
Yes, sir.
So you connected with one of probably the most talented and just successful country music superstars in the world today, Kelsea Ballerini.
Yep.
Tell me about how you hooked up with her in her band.
Yeah, of course. She's also one of the best voices writers of our time as well. But we all actually toured with the Jonas Brothers during the pandemic, bro. That was a wild time for sure.
Yeah.
That was a very wild time. But Kelsea, so I was with Jordan, and we were the support for Kelsea on the Jonas Brothers tour. And I would see her and her band all the time. Every morning they were always working out together. So within the pandemic on this Jonas Brothers tour, it was during COVID, so we had to kind of stay with each one of our camps,
Social
you know.
distance.
Exactly, had a social distance, so each bus had to just stay with their bus and stuff like that, for safety, obviously, and it worked out because we were able to do the whole tour and stuff. But I would see them working out together all the time and just saw how connected they were as friends, and then we would see each other here and there, and I would watch their show every night, bro. I would watch their show every night because they were smacking. I'm like, okay, Kelsea is fire. Her band is smacking, and they're all super cool. So once it got later into the tour, I mean, it was still pretty like tight as far as the hanging and stuff, but we would occasionally like hop on their bus and just chill with them and, you know, just get the vibe. And they were always really cool with me, and I was always extremely cool with them. And by the end of that tour, I was just presented like, you know, if they were to call me, would I accept the gig to play with Kelsea? And I'm like, bro, of course, you know, but y'all gotta call me first, you know.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
Exactly. And I mean, they definitely held up their word, because over some time had definitely passed. And then I got a call that was like, yo, we're doing Jimmy Kimmel. Would you like to do it with us? And of course, I said yes, and that was the first gig that I ever did with Kelsey. And I really am thankful for them because they put a lot of trust in me, bro. We didn't have any
Oh,
rehearsals
really?
or anything for
Cool.
Jimmy Kimmel. It was just, yo, we're doing Kimmel. They trusted in me enough to come in prepared. Shout out to Mr. Griffin for preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I came in prepared, sounds ready, sounds designed, all of that stuff. That's another thing. Chicago, you asked me what I learned from
Yeah.
my profession.
Yeah.
Sound design. I learned
Okay.
that in Chicago. That was big. That's what changed my perspective on like not just being a pianist but being a keyboardist. Where I have to work with synthesizers and
Mm-hmm.
program sounds for the gigs that I'm doing, so it can sound like the record.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And look at what you're doing now. I mean, you're playing award shows,
Yes, sir.
Jimmy Kimmel talk shows. I mean, can you describe the feeling of playing on such an iconic stage?
Yeah, man. It's so weird because I didn't really grow up in the sense of like, some people really grow up and they like aspire to play in the garden, or
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really grow up like that, looking at those places because I didn't really know that really wanted to be like a touring musician until a little later on, like in high school. But it's so amazing to play in these places because it shows me where I started, and for me to continue to go back to these places, they become more close to me and meaningful to me because now these are places where I can have that nostalgia. It's not like the nostalgia that certain people would get because their favorite artist played there.
Right.
It's nostalgia because that's where I first played, or with
Yeah.
how I am within my career. Because I didn't really go to that many concerts growing up.
Right, right. I mean, everybody's got their own story of how they got into music and what they wanted to do as far as reach
Exactly.
the top. So,
Exactly. One of those dreams for me was really being in like a house band on a TV show. That
okay.
was something that was a big dream for me when I was like kind of coming up before the whole
Yeah,
tour musician
yeah.
started.
Like Fallon or something.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
That was always a big dream of mine. Still is. So maybe one day we'll get there.
yeah. Never say never.
Exactly.
We're gonna play now a song by Sunny Digital that you worked on called "Dance." What can you tell me about this song, Aspen?
Yeah, so this song was a random funny time. Uh there's this producer. He goes by Sci-Fi,
Mm-hmm.
but he's my nephew. He's not my real blood
Oh
nephew,
wow.
but that's what we call each
Okay.
other. I call him nephew and he calls me Unc, but really he's the Unc and I'm the nephew. But he's the person that really allowed me to know that I can be a producer. He
Okay.
taught me Ableton. He showed me how like the right plugins and synthesizers to use, and always kept that into my world, and that went along into the music directing and the sound design and stuff for the
Yeah.
gigs. But one random night, I was cooking up with Neff, and Sunny Digital had hit him up. He's also a artist slash producer of our time as well,
Mm-hmm.
and he had hit him up and was like, "Yo, come through to the studio. I'm working on this dope song, and I need some keyboard. I need keyboard and need bass." So Neff was like, "All right, cool," So we pulled up to the studio, and this was the song that he was working on. And it's crazy, knowing that Lionel Richie was a part of this song as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so
That's
it
so
was
cool.
yeah, man. So this was one of my first placements that I got as a producer and keyboardist as well.
All right. So here we go. Sunny Digital right here on the Piano Men. Aspen, so what's next for you, man? Do you have any upcoming shows you want to promote? I know you were talking about the Opry
Yeah,
coming up.
actually, I'm pretty sure that I'm playing the Opry tomorrow with Miss Kelsea Ballerini,
Yeah.
which, like I said earlier, is gonna be so nostalgic because it's gonna be one of those places. Like I literally graduated from high school playing
Mm-hmm.
there. I was playing the piano and the drums on that same
I
stage.
remember that.
Exactly, because you were right there with me.
I was. That's right.
So now it's gonna be great to actually go, and it's 10 years from now. That's so crazy, bro.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, man.
Look how
And
much has changed.
exactly, and looking at who I'm doing it with and being able to do it as a professional musician and a professional musician that is born and raised in this city, so that means so much to me, you know.
Definitely.
So yeah, we're doing the Opry, and that's gonna be so cool to do. And I'm pretty sure that we have another upcoming show that's gonna be with John Mayer, man. They just told
Yeah.
us that. Kelsey had posted it the other day.
It's
It's
exciting.
gonna be John Mayer, One Republic, Kelsey. It's gonna be a great time,
A
man.
star-studded lineup.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Star-studded lineup. So, do you have any advice you want to give to any people that want to become musicians, any aspiring musicians?
Of course, man. It's like be yourself, be true to yourself. Make sure you put in that time of being a great musician, but also learn the business.
Mm-hmm.
For you to be a thriving musician that's gonna have longevity in this, you have to know the business, because the business is what I've seen is what eats up a lot of amazing musicians. Because yes, it is about the talent and all of the hours and the time that you put in, but you have to have the balance of being able to put in that time on your instrument and your craft, as well as the business. And something that I'm learning as well and getting better at, or trying to get better at, is the socials and stuff as well. It's like just as much as you can be a socialite in real life, you definitely should make sure that you have balance within your social media as well. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I'm struggling with now. I'm a socialite in real life where I can go meet a slice of bread and make friends with anybody, but I'm working on the socials and stuff now. So that's something that I do want to make sure I give advice for the next generation to come, because I know that the digital world is really going to be changing and something
Mm-hmm.
super beneficial for them, because so many artists is getting picked up off of TikTok and
That's right. Yeah.
Instagram, and so putting that talent out there, and I love that because that's allowing the next generation to be their own person. They can have
Definitely.
their own style. They can do their own thing. It's more opportunity. So
Oh, definitely.
just balance, balance.
Balance is important, you know. Work-life balance is also important, you know.
Exactly, and that's something that I'm learning right now, and I'm glad I'm learning it at such a young age,
Mm-hmm.
where this job is my life, you know, and it is what I love, but I know that I can evolve within this, and I don't have to do this exact same thing for the rest of my life.
Right. You can just change as you see fit, you know, follow the natural path, you know.
Exactly, the path is already set up for us.
That's right. So, Aspen, where can people find you on social media if they want to know more about your music, about what you've got coming up? You know, where can people find more about you?
Yeah, of course, I have Instagram. My Instagram handle is Aspene. That's it, just my first
That's it.
name. Easy and simple. It might seem like it's not there, but I promise you it's there. Just look for the one that only says Aspene, nothing else before it and nothing else after it. And I also have a Facebook as well that I use frequently for if you want to get into my personal life. My wife, she posts a whole lot of things about me and us. So that's more frequent information about what's going on with my personal life. And my Instagram is usually for the gigs and the business that I'm doing within my music. Website is coming pretty soon. I'm just doing some rebranding with that, but that's gonna be aspentaylor.com as well, so it'll just be easy to find on there. So Instagram and Facebook, you could just find me at Aspen, Aspene, and Facebook Aspen Taylor, Aspene Taylor.
Well, Aspen, you know, man, I just want to say first of all that I want to thank you for coming on the show. I know you've got a busy schedule, you got a lot of gigs coming up, but it really means a lot to me to have you come on here
Yes,
and talk about your story and your life so far in the music business. And you're more than welcome to come back on anytime.
yes, sir, and it means so much for me being here, bro. This being one of my first interviews with one of my great friends and somebody that has also like come up with me. You know, we both started doing this stuff in high school, and
Mm-hmm.
now look at us now, you know, doing it as professionals.
That's right.
It means so much to me, bro, and I'm so glad that you asked me to be here, and I will be coming back for sure.
You got it. Well, that's going to do it for this week here on the Piano Men, and we're going to close things out with a song that Aspen got to play on the Jimmy Kimmel show. Here's Heart First by Kelsea Ballerini, and I will see you next time.